Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. We're going to give it about another 45 seconds, and then we're going to get started on time today. Thanks for joining us. I'm still seeing a lot of participants tagging on. Looks like we're going to have a good number today for Dr. Coopwood, which is a lot of fun. As always, we value your time, so we're going to start on time and end on time today, and hope you join us again next week. So this week, for our Lunch in the Know webinar series, got a pretty exciting course. I'm interested in definitely hearing what Dr. Coopwood has to say. I'm Brian Stevens, chairman this year of the Small Business Council. I'm CEO of Case of Public Strategy, where we turn complex communications into something that people can easily digest, hopefully. Our Lunch in the Know series is a long-standing. I've got to read all this, boilerplate for Amy Daniels and the Chamber, but let's get to the meat of it. The Chamber is presenting the Small Business series to provide you with content we hope that you find very, very valuable. We've got 2 more sessions next week, Tuesday and Thursday, and then we'll probably start to go to an every Thursday session. If you have things that you want to hear about that we're not presenting, please let us know. Contact your Chamber representative or me, and I'll definitely pass it over to them. So we want to know what you need during these, disruptive times, if you will. So, of course, we couldn't present this series at all without our partners at iBank, Independent Bank. And today we've got Linda Barnes, who is an executive vice president with them. Let's see if Linda will pop back on here for me as I introduce her. We want to thank them especially because right now, Linda and her team are Linda's one of those really smart people with degrees in economics and finance. I always find those people that really understand a lot of math super exciting because I want to learn from them a lot. But Linda, you guys are super busy right now dealing with all the world, and you're still sponsoring this and gaining this knowledge. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Brian. And again, I am Linda Barnes, and I get to work with our branch network here at Independent Bank. And on behalf of them and the whole bank, we welcome you and thank you for being here. If you know me as a planner and an organizer, but I also love change. So I'm not scared of change. I just like to plan for it. The last 6 weeks have taught us all that we, one, get to expect change and we have to accept change. At Independent Bank, though, we like to say our constant is our customer, and they always have a need, and we always look for a solution. So this, our participation with the Small Business Council is our one of our privileges to be able to try to bring some of that solution to our community. So join me in today, and I'm sure that it'll be a great source of knowledge for us all. And I thank you for joining us. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda. And Linda's been working, I think we were talking earlier about this till midnight sometimes, trying to deal with all these loans. And so if you ever need any help from a banker, we obviously highly recommend our partners at Independent Bank. So if you have questions today, Dr. Coopwood's willing to take some questions if we have time at the end. What you want to do is, sometimes your screen goes blanks with these Zooms and you just got this big title bar, but if you wiggle your mouse, you'll see a little Q&A button. If you click on that, I will see those questions and I'll be able to feed those to Dr. Coopwood at the end if we've got time. If not, we'll try to answer those after the fact. So if you've got questions, we'd love to hear from you. So Dr. Coopwood, we all know that he's the CEO of Regional One, and he's got this really impressive resume that I'm not going to read to you that you would expect a CEO of that caliber to have. So he's got all this awesome credentials. But what I find kind of the coolest about Dr. Coopwood is 2 other kind of components. One is he took Regional One and really moved it forward. I mean, it's a big ship over there, and he's done so many really neat things with it, not just from a branding standpoint, but actually elevating the care they give. So kudos to Regional One and his leadership. But 2, Coopwood's involvement in the community has been really out front. And that's why I've got to know him through Leadership Memphis and other nonprofit organizations where he's given of his time. So Dr. Coopwood, why don't you go and unmute and start your video. And if people have questions on your topic on what to expect and accept we'll let you jump in there, and I'll go dark until the end of this. So thank you, Dr. Coopwood, for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you, Brian, for the introduction. Welcome to everyone on this call. I see a blank screen, so I don't know how many of you are out there, but welcome for sharing your lunchtime with myself during this chamber event for the Small Business Council. Thank you to the chamber for inviting me to speak today a little bit on something that I'm passionate about. And Nancy Coffey, who tends to call you and doesn't take no for an answer, is partly responsible as well for my presentation today. So, you know, the topic is listed as what to expect and accept. And that's driven by something that we all suffer from as business owners, whether you're a small business or a large business, is our employees and having them being able to deliver a product that we want them to deliver at all times. I'm going to start with two stories. The first story was probably the first week or so that I was here in Memphis. I moved to Memphis from Nashville in March of 2010. We were kind of in a transition as a family, and we were going to, the Med at the time had a contract with a car rental agency that I'll leave nameless. And this car rental agency was someone that the organization used repeatedly to rent cars for executives who would travel back and forth to Nashville or wherever they would go. And so I needed to rent a car for me to travel to Nashville. And so they set me up to go to this car rental agency. Apparently they close at 5 o'clock. So my wife and I, we found our way over there. We didn't know where we were going at that time. I come in and it's like 5:05. And after we rushed over there, after leaving the office, I open the door, it's unlocked. I walk in and there's people in line being helped. And I said, "Are you all still open?" And the guy looked at me and he said, "We've been open all day long. You had all day to get here. No, we're not open." And so what that said to me was, I'm pretty sure he was not the franchisee or the owner of the enterprise, but he was the person there representing that owner or that franchise owner during that time, and he was allowed to be able to speak to somebody who obviously gives that organization a lot of business in a way that he thought was appropriate. So I was just kind of stunned. I kind of looked at my wife and I said, you know, he's right. It is 5:05. They were open all day long. And they're not obligated to rent me a car at 5:05. However, how you say that and how you inform a customer is, we'd love to take care of you, but we need to take care of these individuals and we're closed, is a whole different conversation and how that was. So that was, all I could think of was the person who owned that site. And what would they think about someone saying that unbeknownst to who I was? But obviously that was the last rental car that that was the last time we ever dealt with that franchise because of that experience that happened with the new CEO of an organization. So I'm sure we didn't drive that company out of business, but we took our business away from them and went somewhere else based on that interaction of somebody who was speaking on behalf of the owner. So that was 2010. You fast forward to a couple months ago. I'm a car lover and like to drive sporty cars, I guess it says. So last year I bought a Tesla. I went to the dealerships in Nashville, went to the dealership, and it's kind of run like you expect a Silicon Valley company, people walking around, casual, cool, but wanting to talk with you, wanting to engage, not pressure, but a polite cool. And so I went through the process and ended up buying a Tesla off the showroom floor. Now, Tesla's model is they have service centers in areas where they don't have dealerships. And they opened a service center here in Memphis. And so I had a cracked windshield. So I made an appointment. Everything is online. There's no communication with anyone. So you have to kind of get acceptable of that. Had my appointment for 9 o'clock. And I drove over there a little bit early. I got there about 8:45. I go, walk in, I open the door, and the guy says, "Hello, we don't open till 9 o'clock, but I'll go ahead and see you right now." And I was like, okay, I'm not sure this is what Elon Musk had in mind as how that interaction should be. And then he proceeded to say, well, we don't give loaner cars to people when it's a customer pay. And none of this was listed on any of the websites. There's nothing listed, and no text that I received that gave me these instructions. So I'm walking in as someone expecting the kind of service experience that I got from the Gossett Audi, or when I've had Mercedes, where people, address you and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And they kind of, because of they're representing the dealer, they're representing the brand, they kind of bend over backwards to make sure that you're happy with the service experience. And this was an absolute opposite. And so what I did is, when they asked me what my experience was, I gave them a very low score, and I typed in the reason why. And the guy called me back and said, "Why did you score us low?" And I'm like, come on, man, you didn't even say, "Welcome to Tesla Service Center. We're glad you're here. We open at 9, but let's go on and get started." There was nothing like that. It was the first interaction was, "We're not open yet, but we'll go ahead and see you." So here's individuals who are left in organizations who are allowed to represent those organizations how they see fit, not how the organization expects them to function. And this is where we all have issues in all of our business. When I started in 2010, the MED, as it was called at the time, was known for a couple things. It was known for being rude. It was known for being dirty. It was known for being not having private rooms, and you could room up with somebody who had 15, 20 friends and kids running around, and you had no real choice. And we were faced with the reality of who we were, and I knew where we wanted to be, and I knew that getting from where we were to where we wanted to be was going to take a lot of work. But first of all, we had to set expectation that if you're going to be an employee of the MED, ultimately Regional One Health, there will be expectations of your behavior, and we'll hold you to those. The MED at the time was like, we just need warm bodies, and I can't fire Mary Sue or John Jones because who am I going to get to replace them? And so you get caught in this cycle of, I don't want to let this person go because I don't have someone to step in to replace them. And so when you're caught in that cycle, you end up not being able to set expectations of what it is that you want, and you end up accepting what you have. And this is a very, very bad formula, and you see that not just in Memphis, but you see that in other communities, to where people are making those decisions that she does most everything well, so I'll just kind of overlook the fact that she's a little rude, a little gruff at the front desk. Or, we're doing okay, business is well, it's going to have to go back through and hire somebody and train them. So we'll just kind of let them continue to do, because obviously it's not killing our business. But in reality, and kind of the quote that I like to use, if you feel you can't afford to let a bad employee go, the reality is you really can't afford to keep them on, because that individual is costing you money. Whether you're able to see it or not, they are costing you money in the fact that they're interacting with clients who make a decision that I like the product, but I can't go through the hassle of going through how to obtain the product. The front office, my daughter had when we first came, we had a pediatric ophthalmologist that was absolutely the best, one of the best doctors I've ever interacted with. My daughter was young and calm and had to do all kind of procedures. And once you got past the front desk and got to the room where the doctor was, this experience was 15 out of 10. But that front desk was something that needed work, and so the assumption is I don't have time to deal with that front desk. I just want to see patients, and so therefore you have this kind of frustrated experience out front, but great experience out back. And you as a company, and we as an organization started this process even before we changed our name to Regional One Health. We started setting expectations of behaviors, of how we expect individuals to deal with the public, how we expect them to deal with our patients, and how we expect them to deal with each other. It was an HR issue. We let people go who were not exhibiting the behaviors that we expected as an organization. And my favorite nurse, I never met her. She's my hero. She went to HR and she said, I'm going to resign because I can't live up to the new expectations of the med. Hero. And I said, please find all your friends. If I had met her, I probably would have said, please find all your friends and you all let's do a group resignation. And so she left, and many have left voluntarily, some that we've had to move out. And so we totally embrace the idea that sometimes no employee is better than a bad employee. And that's the flip that we all have to make as leaders and as owners. And I'm sorry, there's a helicopter flying by that's about to land, so it might be a little loud. As leaders and owners, we have to make that decision that yes, a bad employee is sometimes worse than the time it takes to find the next one and hire him or her up to a point where they're delivering and executing at the level that we expect. And so what we've done in the last year and a half in our strategic planning is we've come up with behaviors. We had an outside consultant that had helped us put together our premier behaviors. We have a total of 12 premier behaviors, and every week we rotate them. We start each meeting with those and conversations. This week it is have a contagious positive attitude. There's communicate. There is support your team and team first, and behaviors that we expect for everybody to execute on a daily basis as we interact with the public and we interact with each other. Now, is it 100%? Absolutely not. But are people on notice? and our people being written up and counseled if we have evidence that they're not living up to the expectations of this organization. The other thing that I think has been extremely important in our making this transition is sometimes leaders in an organization will say, well, I just can't make, I don't know, Mary Sue, and I apologize if there's any Mary Sues on the call. I just can't make Mary Sue do any better. And the statement that I've made over and over and over to middle management, if Mary Sue works for you, it's your fault Mary Sue behaves the way that she does. And people look at me like I'm crazy. Well, no, Mary Sue I don't live in her home. I didn't help raise her. I didn't do any of this. How am I responsible for how Mary Sue acts? And I tell them she works for you. And either if you can't get her to do better, you need to help Mary Sue find another job. Or the helicopter's about to leave now. Or you manage Mary Sue up, get her some counseling and some help so that she can rise to the level that you expect her to execute. But at the end of the day, Mary Sue's behavior is a result of your failure to manage her out or manage her up. If you allow her to be a subpar employee, guess what? She will excel at being a subpar employee. And this is the thing that in a large organization or in your small business, if you have a bad employee that is ruining or affecting your reputation or your brand, and they still work for you, I wish I could tell you nicely that it's their fault, but it's really your fault because they still work for you. They still get a check from you every week, every 2 weeks, or every month, however you pay them. And so if you're still paying them and they're still acting in ways that you're not seeing as being acceptable for your company, that's not their fault. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I've had senior leadership that I've had to help find new jobs because the way that they function and interact with each other was not professional in a way that was consistent with what I expected. And as long as they stayed there, it was my fault as CEO. And I had to bite that bullet a couple times and say, I need to get a leader in here that can help push us to where we ultimately need to be and where we're trying to go. So this comes with, when you talk about what to expect, if I expect someone to be professional, to be to deliver according to how my company wants us to, and you can't do it over assumption or hope. I can't hope they'll do it. You're going to have to provide leadership and direction and be willing to let those individuals go if they're not willing to step up and to live up to the level of what you expect. And then your acceptance will be that of a good employee. The last story that I'll kind of end with, and someone's life has been changed a little bit because they've been flown into here, but we'll pray that they're okay. The last story that I'll end with, and I do this wherever I go, whenever I run into a business where they're giving excellent service and it's consistent, because consistency is the key. I'll ask, how do you do it? Because it's not easy. And so there's a restaurant that's in Germantown, and I don't know, and I'll say a Southern Social. Every time my wife and I go to this restaurant, you walk in and you're greeted with a smile. you walk to your table, there's people that will look up at you, make eye contact and say, hi, glad you're here. And all the ways to the table and then anyone who interacts, they're always just positive. And that always catches my attention. So when the manager or owner, I'm not sure what he was, when he came by the table, I said, you got to tell me how you do this, because this is not the norm. It happens in this community over and over, but it's not necessarily the norm. And what he said is I have resignation day every Tuesday, and I pull everybody together and, you know, and ask them, are they willing to follow the rules and follow the expectations of the restaurant? And if they all say yes, they're given their tools back to go back. But I give them an opportunity to resign every Tuesday, because we want that consistent behavior in how this restaurant is functions. And every time we go there, it's been consistent. And I don't know if they pay their people extra, but the reality is they spend the time to make sure that what they expect or what they're willing to accept, they put the work in to make that happen. And so I would recommend that each of you, you know, have someone do some secret shoppers, that person who answers the phone, person at the front desk, the people who are representing you before they get to you or get to your product, to make sure that what they're doing is consistent with what it is that you expect to be done. Because whether you're there or you're on vacation or you're wherever you are, they're representing you while you're not in that space. And so this has been the work that we have. Now when people come, they say that this is friendly, professional, the place is clean. It's almost 180 from what the community saw or expected from the Med in 2010 to what they're able to see today. I wish I could tell you it's perfect, and every one of our 2,700 or so employees is doing exactly what we expect. But every day we're searching for them to either manage them up or to help them find new employment. The sad thing about that nurse that left is she's probably working somewhere else in this community, and she's working where they'll accept her mediocre behavior. And that's just not something, as long as I lead this organization, that we will accept, is someone to be okay with being mediocre. We want to be the best. There's great healthcare, Baptist, Methodist, St. Francis in this community. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about them, but our goal is to be able to continue to raise the bar of what we deliver. And then what it does, it raises everybody's bar and gives you a better citywide experience as it relates to healthcare. I'll pause right here. I want to implore and encourage each one of you to stay safe. And as you open up your businesses over these next couple of weeks, that we continue to do that thoughtfully. We have not seen in our hospital or the other area hospitals a level of COVID cases and devastating effects that we've seen on the news in New York and New Orleans and Detroit. And we don't want to see that. And in order for us to not see that, is that we as a community and you as businesses will have to do this thoughtfully and carefully so that we can get back to Memphis that we know and love. So Brian, with that, I'll open up for questions.
Yeah, just stay right on. I've actually got a series of questions. I've been attempting to cobble them together. There have been some that have been pretty similar in nature, so hopefully I can get to everyone's question. But I want to summarize with, I've taken 5 key takeaways from this conversation. One, set high standards, high expectations, and hold your team accountable. Frontline people front desk people are super vital to that customer service experience. Hold your leaders accountable. Learn from others that are doing it right and wrong. I thought that was powerful. And I've learned this rule a long time ago in my companies, which are the first time you think about firing somebody, go ahead and fire them. I violate that rule often because I get emotionally vested. And that kind of leads me to the first question that we've got. And one person was asking questions about union employees, but I'd like to kind of add to that. You could have vital roles in your company or union employees that are just more difficult to get rid of, or they're hard to replace. So how do you deal, or did you have experience with dealing with hard to replace workers that you were a little nervous about getting rid of, or that you couldn't because of some sort of contractual obligation?
So union workers have, through the, and we don't have they can't strike. So we work under MOU, and there are dietary EVS individuals who are in the union. So it's not, we don't have a nurses union in Memphis yet, and we're trying to keep that in that way. What union does, it gives them appeal rights. And if you adequately document when someone that's an employee from a union has violated the organization's code of conduct or any of the rules and regulations, and it's well documented that you counseled them per your bylaws or per the MOU, they'll get a hearing and they get the opportunity to appeal. But in reality, if you've done everything and done it by the book, you can move those individuals out. When I was a CEO at a hospital in Nashville, I told the union person there, I said, look, if we're treating your employees unfairly, I'll make it right. But please don't come in here advocating and pushing for people who have absolutely broken the rules, who are absolutely not living up to what we expect. I said, this is going to be our give and take. And we had a good relationship there. The piece about hard to replace, it's, again, it is a, sometimes you have to step up and do more than you have to do. Like right now, I'm without a COO, and I'm functioning as CEO at a strategic level, but I'm also functioning in the operating role and making sure that the vice president. And so I'm not in a hurry to make a bad decision on a hire until we can find that right person that will fit within the organization to be executed. So sometimes in that interim, it may require a owner or a business leader to kind of step up and even do more than they want to do, but for the sake of their business, getting rid of a bad employee and waiting to hire the right employee is the right thing to do. And that way you're not faced with firing someone 6 months from now because you rushed into a bad decision. Never be in a hurry to make a bad decision.
Well, I think that that's really vital for everyone to hear. I mean, at times I felt almost hostage situation where I feel like I can't, well, I'm kind of stuck with this person, but I think what I'm hearing your advice saying is, well, maybe you just got to, tough it out sometimes, because that bad customer service person can really have detrimental effects across the line. So you better go and work with either the union representatives or contractual, and you just better go and grind through it. I think that's good, basic, like military advice I used to hear in the Army a lot, right? So let's take this next one here, which is how did you exactly set the expectations with your team and radiate that down? Did you work with a cross-section of employees? How did you convey that information that you were actually going to increase the standards and hold people accountable? What was the kind of the first step you did to radiate that information down?
Well, I think the first step is creating a vision of what it is that we wanted to see in the organization. It was a vision that through the years of John Gaston, the MED, and had never seen. So you first have to set the vision of what it is that we want to be. And it's no different than, say, the restaurant I spoke about. They probably set the expectation of what they wanted to be as a restaurant, and you don't waver from that. And then you bring people in that are brought in under that understanding of this is who we are and this is how we're going to function. When there's not clarity from the top as to what the organization seeks to become and what type of employees or what type of behaviors for those employees that we want or we want to see what they are, then people feel that they're allowed to come in and be themselves. I used to have a conversation with all new hires that, once you come into Regional One Health, once you drive into the parking garage and park your car, you really have to you represent yourself up to that point. But once you get out of your car onto our property, now you're representing Regional One Health. And so whatever behaviors may be okay at home, but are not okay at work, you got to turn them on. And then as your 8 or 12-hour shift here at Regional One Health, you are executing according to Regional One Health. And I tell them, once you get in your car, if your shift is over and you turn right on Pauline, you can be yourself again. But please take your badge off and don't wear a shirt that says Regional One Health while you're out at Kroger's acting a fool, because you're still representing us. And so that's the kind of thing that, be yourself where you are, but once you enter our property, then now you're representing the organization.
Well, Dr. Coopwood, I'd like to get a little bit more tactical in nature. I'm very curious to see, so you set a new standard, you come on as a new CEO. How quickly did you have to let people know you were serious from an expectation? So you set up the expectation. I'm sure you put out a memo, you got your top leadership, you told them to radiate it down to their ranks with, great clarity. At what point did you have to almost say, you're not living up to this new standard, it's real, and I'm not going to back off of it? Was there kind of a defining moment that they got how serious you were about this?
So first of all, I've been here 10 years. So this is not a 2-week course of transforming an organization. It's been a journey. I had the advantage of recruiting most all of my leadership, and the leadership who was here bought into the vision of where we want to be. So I didn't have to convince senior leaders, hey, I need you to get on board. I had the opportunity to bring people in under the new vision of where we wanted to go as an organization. And then you get to a point where first people say, well, this guy, the last CEO was here a year and left. This guy's going to be here a year and left, leave. He's not going to stay. And so we'll just kind of act like we're going to be different. But it's that consistency of the message and consistency of the management and sticking around. The people says, oh, this guy is crazy. He does want us to smile. He does want us to be professional and polite. He does want us to interact and to develop, create, and deliver a high quality product. And he's obviously not going anywhere. So I guess I either have to get on board or go get another job. And so there was a 2 to 3 year kind of wait me out. Is he serious? And then we kind of had a flux of either individuals volunteering to leave, or we asked people to leave who weren't really embracing what it was that we were trying to do. And so everybody, and you have to make the assessment of where your organization is. We're trying to change 100-year, sometimes behaviors, and over a period of time, so if we're going from this public hospital that's just for poor people and poor people don't deserve great care and great service kind of mentality, which I disagree with 100%, to do the transition to we want to be an academic medical center in conjunction with the University of Tennessee that's a leader in healthcare delivery. So that's, if you want to talk about the widest journey out there, that's extremely ride journey, and we're not to that academic medical center, but we've moved from where we were in 2010, and we're getting to a point and working with UT to be able to make that transition. And that's kind of the exciting thing. And you got to have the desire and ability and willingness to do it for the long haul. Well,
so I'm going to write that down as an additional learning lesson here, is that it was a continual process of consistency over time, and the lessons were baked in over time, not kind of a defining moment. I think a lot about Jack Welch. He went over to take in GE, and he fired, what was it, 18% of the workforce almost overnight, but they had financial issues and other things as a defining moment. So instead, you took a consistent approach over time to bake these lessons in. That's a great, I think that's a great final talking point for right now. Dr. Coopwood, I'd like to thank you for being on today, and on behalf of iBank and Waddell and Associates for continuing to let us to use their Zoom platform. Once again, thanks, David Waddell, and to you and everything you're doing at Regional One. It really impacted me that we all have serious lives, and you literally just had a helicopter land behind you with somebody's life that was changed in a very dramatic way, and these are the things that you're dealing with. So thank you for giving us some time today and learn the lessons about customer service as we go forward. So I like those 6 talking points I got from your leadership lesson. So thank you. So next Tuesday and Thursday, everyone, next Tuesday and Thursday, we've got Adams and Keegan coming on Tuesday, high noon. And they're going to talk about, we're going to start bringing employees back, and what are all the requirements? What are all the things you need to be thinking about? I think that we're going to get a lot out of that. So that'll be at noon, and then we'll have another one Thursday at noon. And then probably after that, we're going to start to just go to every Thursday and really fixate on providing you with outstanding content. So if you've got something you want to see, you've got to let us know. I really appreciate your time. I know you got some great stuff out of it today. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.